Hi, good morning. This is Kim with www.embody-light.com. And if you haven't done so, please hit the like and subscribe button. I do psychic readings, hypnotherapy, uh, energy healing, sound healing, past life regressions, Akashic records work, twin flame work, all kinds of things. Just check out my website. So, I have not had time to make many videos this summer. I'm trying to get back into it now. I painted my whole house and we have a big garden. I did a lot of canning and stuff. And so we have heirloom vegetables all year round. And what else did I do? A lot of trips to the cabin. So it was a really busy summer and I just let this go. So I am back. And first thing I want to say is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, that would be the 5th and 6th of October, I believe, I have Reiki 1 training and there still are a few spots available. So the reason I wanted to make this video is so many of us ask why, because really seems to be like a difficult timeline to be in. Why are we here? Why did we choose this? If we choose to come into life on this planet, why would we do this? Well, a couple things I want to explain. On this planet, before the flood, way back when, there were so many different types of beings. After the flood, at the time of the flood, we were a 5th density society. We fell in consciousness to a 3rd density society. And anyways, after the flood, many people died, but not everybody. The ones who survived carried in their genetics, I don't know how you would term it, I'm just going to term it the God code. Not that everybody else doesn't have it, but the people who survived the flood, it's more pronounced in them, I guess you could say. So anyways, back to what I'm talking about here. So there's a couple different scenarios here. For one thing, there's Terrans, and these are people, humans, we're all humans, but these are humans who have never had a life on another planet. They're young souls, and they've only been here on Earth. Then there are the star seeds and the angelic beings, and these would have been termed years ago. These were what they considered the angels or people from other planets. They didn't understand them and they thought that they were gods and angels and that kind of thing. So along the lines of history, the people that were star-seeded or angelic beings intermingled with the Terrans and created families. And so we have, from eons ago, we have many descendants here. And the reason a lot of us starseeds came back is we came back in this, it's a critical timeline. We came back to clean up our family lines, to clean up the lineage, because a lot has gone on over the years. So, and now things have shifted so much that it's more vital than ever, because I'm going to be talking about family patterns, curses, that kind of thing, self-induced curses. But it's vital right now because my guides are telling me, my team, the Sananda Collective, is telling me the time is near. We really need to do our shadow work if we haven't done it, and we really need to clean up how we talk and think, because everything that happens, we are creating it, and we need to, if something happens that's detrimental, it's our job to find out how we were a part of that creation. We're either there to learn. The only reason other people come into your reality is for you to learn something, for you to teach something. Some people are just extras. So you got to ask yourself, why is this person in my reality, or why did this situation come up? And then you got to work on the consciousness. So it's time to do the shadow work. So the rest of what I'm going to talk about here is, so the Terrans, people that are star-seeded or angelic, they do not go into the wheel of samsara, and that's not even a thing anymore that can happen. There used to be a false light where especially the Terrans would be trapped by the dark side into and forced back into lifetimes over and over and over again without ever going home in between. Now, this didn't happen to starseeds. They went home and they chose their lives, but the Terrans were often forced back into a life that really was detrimental or challenging. So along the lines, we're intermingling with Terrans, and now we have all these ancestors here. And so a lot of the things that have happened have had to do with, there's curses, there's family patterning, and there's self-induced curses. Because something interesting came up with somebody I know recently that was just so strange, and I had to ask, was this a curse? Was this self-induced? What was this all about? Well, words are powerful. Words are spells. I gotta pause for a second here. Okay, sorry about that. So words are powerful. Words are actually spells. And so back in the day, and I mean, it still probably happens now, when somebody would get mad at you or something would happen, they'd curse you, they'd tell you, this is going to happen to your family or that's going to happen. Well, if the person believed it, took it into their being, fretted over it, worried over it, they actually created it. Another person does not have any power over you. Now, there were black magicians that had a little more power and could do a little more, but if the person knew how to defend themselves, none of that stuff would have happened. So there used to be curses like that. But then we got to look at these family patterns. What they basically are is a self-induced curse. So I'm going to tell you about a story that recently happened. The reason I wanted to make this video. So I've talked about this before. Years and years ago, my family was very, they were Catholic, and they were the kind that was really into fear, really into shame, really into punishment, that kind of thing. And so they had the belief that the only way that they could be saved is to remain Catholic. So one of the family members broke off and they didn't want to do that anymore. They started going to a different kind of church, a Lutheran church. Well, one of their kids got pinned between two cars and wasn't hurt, no broken bones or anything, but actually got pinned between two cars, hit by a car. And they assumed that that was punishment from God from switching to a different church. So they went right back to that church and no other kids got hit. Well, so this story was told and passed down over generations and generations. Then something else happened a couple weeks ago. One of my little granddaughters was actually hit by a car. Just tapped, scared her. There were no broken bones, no internal injuries, anything. They took her to the hospital. The mother was more afraid than her. But after this other thing, I had to ask, what the heck was that? Why are there two instances of people getting hit by cars? This other family didn't have this belief. Well, it was because it was a story that was passed down and told and spoke of over and over and over again. It eventually became a part of the family's story, I guess you could call it. So we carried this story, which became a possibility, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then it hit another generation. So what I had to do is go back in, clean up the self-induced curse, the family lines, rescind any vows. Anytime you say, I never, I always, I promise, you're making a vow to the universe that keeps carrying it out. So this happened and then that happened. So I had to ask, were there other things? Was it just this lifetime that these things were happening? And no, it had gone back centuries ago where somebody's child was run over by a wagon, horse-drawn wagon, and died, somebody in our family. And so this was a part of our story, I guess you could say, and it was passed down generation to generation to generation. So it played out in my mother's generation in that family, didn't play out in my with my children, but it played out with one of my grandchildren. So that was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I have to find my other notes. So how do we recognize a curse? That would be a similar event that happens at least 2 or 3 times in the family line that you recognize. And then I had to ask my guides too, is the family pattern something that's repeated generation to generation? There are many things. There are diseases that you could consider patterns. There's one would be like alcoholism. That's not actually genetic handed down, but if it comes into a family and stays for 3 generations, it becomes superimposed, you could say, in the genetics. And so different family members that are born will carry that tendency. And so how do you recognize, is it a curse from someone else? Is it a curse we made ourselves? You just have to go back into the family line and ask questions and see what you get, basically. Because they're not that different. One is something that oral stories that we tell over and over and over again, and it becomes part of the family storyline. The other thing is, now, before the flood, we did not have disease on this planet. Disease is actually an artificial intelligence. Not saying that people don't get disease and don't get sick, but it's our belief in that possibility and the fact that, the water's been tainted, the airways have been tainted, our food has been tainted. We have been downgraded so much in our genetics, we don't always catch this. But anything that happens over and over again, you could either, what they told me basically is this family patterning is basically a self-induced curse in most times. Yes, we do have disease and stuff, but it is not normal to our being. That's something that's been done to us. So it's an artificial reality that the evil controllers on the planet try to tell us it's normal. It's normal you have diabetes in your family. It's normal you have rheumatoid arthritis in your family. There are some instances where people that came from higher densities, like some of the star-seeded beings, that they just can't take the density of this planet. So they sometimes have trouble with their muscles and their joints and stuff. That is one thing, but to have it take over and be like an autoimmune disease, like rheumatoid arthritis or something, that is something else. That is a person believing so much in this disease and the power of the disease that they've allowed it to take over their body. The person with the condition has no idea about this. So that was, I could just talk about just for a minute. That was one of the things that was handed down in my family, this condition with joints and that genetic condition, to the point where my mother had rheumatoid arthritis, but it did not develop that way in me. I have some osteoarthritis in my thumbs from overuse. Well, what my guides told me when I first started having that and recognizing I had some of the same symptoms as my mother, I was quite freaked out, thinking, oh my God, I have 5 children. If I get sick like she was, how is I going to take care of them? And my guides basically told me that it doesn't have to develop into this. Just because your mother had it doesn't mean that it did, but that I had to clean up my consciousness and do some healing work, or that was a very good possibility. So years ago, I started working on this. Well, so I try to look at it like, because we all think like something like arthritis or any condition, that there's just nothing we can do about it. We just have to treat the symptoms, that it's just something genetic that we have. And what my guides say is that's actually not true. It's your belief and the power you give to that makes it so much worse. Like in the case where, is it just some sore joints, or is it a systemic autoimmune disease? That's the difference. And so I tried to look at it at, okay, if my cells regenerate every 10 years, why should I believe that I'm going to be stuck with the same hands that I have in 10 years? If I'm going to regenerate, why couldn't it regenerate and be much better? Well, just by having that belief system and ideals, it is much better, because 3-4 years ago, I was getting steroid injections in 3 spots in each joint, and I was on oral prednisone. That was the only thing that could control it. But once I started believing different, changing my mind, I had to make some lifestyle changes. It started to dissipate and go away. I've had the same thing, and I know other people this has happened to too, where I've had like a dental infection, and it's just starting, and I fret and I worry about it because I'd had them before and they were very painful. Well, all that fretting and worrying about it was what was bringing it on, rather than just, you can't ignore symptoms, but you just practically treat them and don't give any credit to how much worse it could be or what's going to happen. You just pray, you put it in Source's hands, and things will resolve for you. So, curse, family patterning, self-induced curse, they're all kind of the same thing. We are creating it with our minds. And again, I'm going to just state, it's time to really clean up what we say, how we think, what we do, because we are creating it moment by moment by moment. Everything you say, everything you do manifests in one way or another. There used to be a lag time when you were like maybe thinking in a third density consciousness way, as opposed to someone in a fifth density consciousness way. There used to be a lag time where you would say or speak or do something, and it would be months or maybe years till you saw the result of that. So most people didn't make the connections. Well, now it's like bing, 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 bing. You say it and it happens. It's very quick. So it's really time to clean up our acts. So that being said, I love you all. I'll be back to make more videos soon. And again, my website is www.embody-light.com. And there are still spots available for the Reiki training this weekend. Have a blessed day. I'll be back with more videos as soon as I can. Bye-bye.